So I want to welcome everyone to this early edition of xEssentials. Tonight's presenter is from a land down under. So we've made an accommodation to make it a little early tonight. So from what I understand, Dave has been lurking out in the Zoom room and helping folks for a while now, and has put together a lot of the common issues that he's seen and the best ways to help them. So Dave, you've got the floor.
Okay, guys. How you say my last name is actually Szoka. So spell it Szoker is the easiest way. It's Polish. So yes, and I'm an audio-visual technician for the last 15 years. I used to specialize before I semi-retired in lighting systems design. So basically, a designer makes the plan, and I'm the one who puts it all together and makes it all work. So thank you all for accommodating me coming early. I'm actually at work doing this presentation, so fingers crossed everything goes to plan. Okay, so let's move on. What I'm going to cover today. I'm going to cover just a few things that I believe will help with troubleshooting your display. After sitting in Zoom for 12 months or so, there's a lot of issues that people are bringing in that could be solved well before you come into a Zoom room by just following some simple steps, having some basic tools, things like that. So what I'm trying to do is I can't solve every problem out there because no one has the same setup. You know, I can't go look at John's setup and it will be the same as Dave's setup. So trying to cover everything would be here for days. I'm not touching on software because by the time I finish this, there'll probably be 2 new releases of xLights. So trying to keep up with the software, just as you guys know, it changes from day to day, week to week. It's not going to happen. Handy tools and items. Let's move on to that. First of all, my disclaimer. Okay, these are my opinions. They may not suit everyone else. I'm not an expert. I'm open to ideas. This is just a group of ideas, thoughts, and a process to help you to fault find and troubleshoot your display while you can at home, instead of jumping into here and trying to figure it out. Because a lot of hardware issues are very hard to figure out in Zoom. Software, we can see a screen. It's very hard to go see your prop in Zoom unless you walk around with your phone. So we'll just stick with those and we'll see where we end up. So these are just a couple of tools that I think everyone should have on hand at all times. This is for troubleshooting your display, just making that fault-finding process a little bit easier. But once again, it's just things that aren't expensive. Nothing here I'm saying is $1 million. It's just little items that you can have along the way and keep with you that will last you for years. Simple as a Cat5 cable tester. Last year, I remember, I can account at least 12 times that we had all these people in Zoom rooms, and the problem was a faulty Cat5 cable between, say, the Pi and the controller, the laptop and the controller and another controller. And, you know, they had no way to test it. They didn't have a spare. $20 on eBay. Yes, you know, you buy your new cables, but let's face it, not everything's built the way it used to. It might not work straight out the bat. Now, most of you will have a multimeter, which, as if anyone here who's been doing it for a while, trying to get your multimeter probes into a pigtail to test voltage, you're going to spend a lot of time swearing, and then you're finally going to get your voltage reading. It's not going to work perfectly. So what I built last year was my own homemade voltage tester. Best thing about it is it will work with your system. So it's not, you know, you don't have to, you're not something you're buying all the components off the shelf and building it yourself. What you'll need: self-power voltage meter, 3 to 30 volts, a jiffy, a little plastic box to put it in, and your pigtails and connectors. So in my case, I use Raywu. So I've got Raywu 3-pin and Raywu 2-pin. So some of you are X-Connect, some of you are Paul. They're all the same. All these items you can get off eBay, Amazon, or if you're in Australia, JK Electronics. So what you're building is basically a simple voltage tester that you can plug straight at the end of your strings. And what it'll do is it's just going to bring up your display. So as you can see, it's just simply join your positive and negatives together. One side I have my Raywu 3, the other side is Raywu 2-pin. So the advantage of this is, once again, you're not trying to plug things in. You're not trying to hold the probes with a multimeter. And you can have up to 4 or 5 different pigtails all attached into this, because you're literally plugging one at a time to do testing. So because it's a self-powered meter, as power's applied, this lights up with a voltage. Most of you have all seen this before. You've got them on your power supplies into your cases. Off you go. So just to give you an idea. So, once again, it's quick and easy. It's plugged straight into my controller there. It's giving me 12 volt, done. And then this is, I think it was about after 110 pixels on test mode. It gives me 10.5. Once again, you're not sitting there trying to hold pin your probes with your multimeter to get a reading to test your voltage, to see what your voltage drop is. Once again, I think this cost me, I think it was $25 Australian. So probably like $10 US, the way the dollar's sitting at the moment, to build. But it's something you can just grab off your shelf, plug it in, and you're going, which is great if you're just trying to literally test something in the dark, and you can test it. So you can test it, you control the voltage before you plug something in. You can go, oh, yep, I'm getting 12 volt, 5 volt if you follow the dark side. Or, at the end of a prop, we can go, oh, so what's my voltage drop? Is that a voltage problem or is it a data problem, as we'll continue on later? What you can also do if you don't want to do that is you can just buy a set of extra multimeter probes, and you just cut the ends off, and then you just wire in your pigtails, just a positive and negative. Once again, it's just something easy to plug into. You want something quick. If you're fault finding, especially if you've got your display all set up, you don't want to be stuffing about and trying to get everything set up. You just want to plug in and go. So once again, it's something simple, easy to have lying around the house. I don't think it's, Next, you can never have too many of is a buffer pixel, not null pixel or buffer pixels. Why? Because these are a quick fix to most data issues. At the moment, they're not expensive to have lying around. You might not need them, but that one time you do, having one of these or a couple of these in your shed ready to grab out, plug in and go will save you a lot of time. The buffer pixels are a lot better than trying to set up a null pixel. Why? Because you can just plug them in. With a null pixel, you have to go into your controller, configure a null pixel, make sure you count right to where the null pixel is going to be sitting. And even then, you still got to solder on pigtails, because normally it's only going to be a single pixel. And then you do it with this, you can literally drop it in line. Pixel controller, I've got packs for $22.50 US for a pack of 5. The hand electronic ones, I think they're about $3.50 Australian each. And they're all coming now with, you got your Raywu, your X-Connect, pigtails, or you can buy them without and just attach your own, as I have. Last year, one of these saved me. I had a data issue. I didn't see it in testing. I just plugged that in, fixed it, done. Then when I was packing up, I realized it was a bad cable. So then I've replaced the cable. But once again, I had this. It was, is it a bad data issue? I plugged it in, and yay, it worked. Cool, done. It wasn't, I have to go into my controller, configure configure controller with a null pixel, solder that on, test it. No, that's not the issue. Okay, go back, get rid of the null pixel out of my controller. It's simple plug and play. Like I said, with the tools and stuff, it's just simple little things to have around that will make fault finding, testing simpler and easier. Okay. Take your time. Now, what I mean by this is don't rush trying to do everything last minute. I understand that, sometimes you can't get everything on time, or you decide to add a prop. That's fine. But take your time. There's a few things I'm about to talk about that, I've seen on Facebook groups and things like that worries me, that especially in this hobby, that I want to make sure that, we have to look after each other and ourselves while we're building this. This popped up on Facebook quite a few weeks ago now. This scares me. I work with high voltage electronics nearly every day. So I work with 415 3-phase and just seeing things like that, where I know if you accidentally touched something, it's not going to feel nice. We're in a hobby. I know most of us aren't electricians or sparkies in any way, shape or form, but take your time. Make sure you haven't got exposed wires, things like this. It's like, it works, but, I hate to say it, you touch the wrong part there, you are going to hurt yourself, or you're going to hurt your money. You're going to hurt the equipment if you just spent the time on. I mean, here in Australia, we're running on 240 volt. I can tell you for a fact, when you get hit by 240 volt, you remember it. I've been hit. I've gone to hospital. It's happened. So it's just, take your time. Also, as you're opening your controllers up this year, take the time to go through and check all the screws are still tight in your power supply, because, they've been sitting in storage for 11 months, 10 months. So, they could have wiggled loose. It's always worth checking, with these open power supplies, put a bit of tape across the top. So if you accidentally drop a screw in, it's not going to touch anything. Things happen. It's taking your time, taking the precautions. Once again, no one in this hobby wants to get hurt, but accidents do happen. Most of you would have seen this pop up on one of the Facebook groups the other day. You can see here, now what we can tell by having the discussion with the gentleman or persons who this was the screw was loose, it wiggled loose. So it was arcing, jumping, melting. So that's a very expensive, expensive fix now. You've got to unsolder that. Hopefully nothing else has been too badly damaged further down the line, and you've got to replace it. Well, as you pull your controllers out, spend that time. Once again, it's testing and troubleshooting your display earlier on that will save you a lot of hassle once you're up and running, or just as you're starting to set up. I know, everyone's precious on time, but, if you take the time to check all your connections on your controllers, especially the ones that you've had in storage for quite a while, it's going to stop problems like this. 2 weeks out before your show, you're probably going to end up, having a little bit of a stress attack about it. Check your pigtails. We've all heard about these problems. We've all seen it. Grab a multimeter, check out, even if you buy cables from pre-built ones, grab a multimeter and just check the pins match what you're wiring up at your end. Because otherwise that, once again, it's those sort of things later on. If you do it outside, if you're plugging in all your extensions and you haven't tested any of them and you get your display set up, one of those extensions could be faulty. One of the cables you've made could be faulty. Once again, hopefully fuses and things go into play, but if they don't, you could cause damage to the controller or damage to the pixels. Either way, more trouble than, literally sitting on your couch while you're watching TV or in your man cave, she shed, and just doing a handful of checks. I mean, some, as you can see on that bottom picture, are really obvious. Others, not so much. It's just, once again, it's taking your time. Information. So, as we all know on here, you have a lot of information in your head while you're building and designing, setting up your displays. It can get overwhelming. You have to try and remember where your props are and all things like this. Well, with xLights, and because of our great developers and how they think, they've built in a lot of things that just make it a lot simpler for you to have that information on hand, because you don't have to keep running backwards and forwards to your laptop as you're setting up or you're testing your display. You just want to have a printout there in front of you that you can go, yep, that plugs into here, that plugs into here. So I thought I'd just quickly take you through and just show people, once again, just quickly where in xLights you can get this information. So let's go from there. So hopefully now you're seeing my xLights screen. So from here, you can do two things. You can visualize your output, but what you got to do first is you need to open this up if you haven't already done it, and you need to tell it what type of controller you have. Now, you don't have to do it for every single one, as long as your IPs are all the same. You can do it your first one, and then this will work. So once you've done that, then you can right-click, Visualize Controller. So what this gives you, and this is once you've got all your ports set up in your setup, it gives you what your ports are and the order of what your props are plugged into. So once again, you have this, you can print it and you can save it as a separate file. But if you have this out in the garage with you, and you can go, okay, so port 15, I have my Windows Star 3, then Windows Star 2, Windows Star 1. You don't have to keep getting back with the laptop trying to remember it all. It's something, once again, because you've done it in xLights already, it's just the information. there ready, and it's just exportable, ready for you to use out in the garage, or once again, once you're setting up, just these little things. It also happens to give you now handle pixel count, which, once again, the developers keep adding these little Easter eggs in there, if you want to call them like that, which can be really handy. As you can tell, my display is not big at all. The other one is you can export all your xLights set up as a spreadsheet. So you go export models, and it saves as a CSV file. This will open up with Excel, numbers, so forth. I've done one earlier, so we'll just cancel that. This is what it comes down to look like. So here it is. So here's all my models, my groups, everything like that. It's basically every piece of information that's currently in xLights in a spreadsheet format. So for a lot of people, it might be too much, but for other people, it might be, that might be handy to have around. Once again, it's just giving you quick and easy information. You say even addresses, things like that, what they are. It's quick and easy information to have, that you're not relying 100% to go backwards through xLights, have to go to your layout tab, find one of your things. What did I assign that to again? I assigned that to pixel port 19, so forth, so forth. It's having that can be printed out or ready to go. Or once again, you have this, and this could be stuck to your main controller box. So if you have an V16 like I do, V316, you could have that inside your master controller box. So then you're watching, then, on your expansion port. So I have differential receivers around my yard. So then you could print out and have just, that section printed out. So you remember, port 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 is these props. Once again, I'm trying to give you guys just a little ability to help with the fault finding process. Once again, this is not going to fix everything. It's trying to help with the start of the fault finding process, because, like I was saying, hardware issues are hard to fault find in a Zoom room. So let's move on. Label everything as you're building. I can't say that enough. Why? Because quite literally a piece of tape with a number on it. So it could be the port number, or it could be, for me, my mini trees are MT1, MT2, MT3, MT4. You get things like that. So when you're trying to find a big bunch of cables, or you're plugging things in at your controller, you run all your cables and you go put your controller in place, you're about to plug it in, you go, damn it, what was that? Okay, so now you're going to go back, fault find, follow it back, plug it in. But then also, if you've got a fault, if you can quickly look along your cable line and know that that's your mini tree and that's going then to your spinner, and that's where your problem is, you can see that. Once again, it's things you can do before you start the setup. I literally have a bit of fluoro tape with a Sharpie written on it. Fluoro tape, because of where my props sit, I don't see, the general public doesn't see it. My wife doesn't particularly like it. She'd love it in fancy labels, but we don't all have the money to spend on a fancy IP-rated label maker. Even your Cat5 cables from your differential boards, everything like that, if you have it labeled that you know where it's running to, once again, this is, oh, damn it, my display setup, I've got a fault. Oh, mate, this is the one that's faulty. Oh, here's the cable for it. You've got your torch, you can see it. It's not trying to follow, 12 or, 12 Cat5s out of your box over to your differentials. Which one was it? Oh, it's all tangled up. It's quick. No. Once again, it's things like this that you do before your display's out in your yard. I'm a big believer. Let's do everything before, if you can help it, before it's in your yard. Okay? So now, after this, test. Now, that's not the right way I say to test voltage in any way, shape, or form, but I thought it was a good picture. Don't test your voltage like that. That's what a homemade voltage tester for is, like I showed you before. What I mean by test is let's test everything as you're building it and before it goes up. Test as you're building a prop. That can be as simple as having one of the simple little WS12 controllers you buy for $8-9 plugged in, and as you're pushing the pixels in the prop, it's just running through a color. The reason I say that is because that way, if you push a prop or something, push a pixel and it goes bad, you see it then. So you can stop before you've pushed 800 pixels in, fix the bad one, and then continue on. You're not getting to unplug it all and going, look at me, woohoo! Bugger, there's one dead pixel in the middle of my 2000 pixel matrix. Now I have to pull that out, and you're going to pull a couple of pixels out, so you've got room to solder back in, plug it in. Now, yes, pixels can go bad once they're in the prop, but once again, it's going to be a lot easier to fix as you're going than it's all set up. This caught me out the other day when I was pushing my mega canes. I got to pixel 190 out of 200, and it died, and then the rest failed. I tested the string before. It must have been the way I pushed it in. Cable snapped. That was good. So I quickly unsoldered it, plugged in, 10 minutes, and I was finished that mega cane. Once again, now test it exactly how it'll be in the display. What I mean by that is there's no point of going, oh, cool, I've built a prop, plug it in the controller, it works. Now, is that prop going straight into that controller, or is it going to have an extension on it? More than likely, it's going to have an extension. Now, you can't set up your entire display in your yard, in your garage, or wherever you're working. Well, most of us can't. But break it down into different areas and test it. So what I do with mine is I break my areas down. So I have my front fence. So I'll pull everything out from my front fence, put it all in my garage, and test it. And I'll have my differential board receiver there, and I'll make sure it all works exactly how it's going to be. So I've already placed these out, measured all my cables, made them all. My controller sits, in here behind the fence, and I've tested it. So I know, great, every one of those cables is functional, but if I do have a problem, I'm doing it in my garage. I'm not doing it when it's all set up out here and you're trying to figure out where your problem is. So then, then I do my windows. So, my window frames and stars, plug them in, test, yay, they work. I do my roof lines. They all are all just conduit attached to my roof. So I get to cheat, and they're all just literally in place, plug them in. Yes, they work. So once again, you can't plug your entire display in, but it's thinking about what areas you can have and set up beforehand. Just that way, you're testing everything before it's out. Because, here in Australia, we're in summer. So, it's not so bad being outside. You might get a bit sunburnt. But for a lot of people in the US, you're outside and you're trying to fault find. It's probably going to be wet, cold, snowing. If you can do this in your garage, it's going to be a lot nicer. Because, now last year, a lot of faults were literally because they had gone, oh, yeah, I plugged it in, worked, and when I set it up, it doesn't work. And someone goes, well, okay. Whereas, it goes from here and it goes on a 5-foot extension to my controller. Cool. That 5 foot, did you test with it? No. Have you tested that? Oh, yep. So there's the bad extension. So once again, I'm trying to give people the tools to fix issues before they happen, but also the tools as you go to fix. Now, testing is great. Let's go to testing. Can also be just done test mode in your controller. Test mode in your controller. It's a trap. Last year, the amount of people who would come into Zoom room going, my pixels aren't lighting up. I've got dead batches. They're completely stuffed. I don't know what to do. Ray this and Paul that. And okay. Biggest trap is the default settings. Most people, you get your brand new Falcon. I only work with Falcon, so I can't tell about the other controllers. And their factory is 50. So you wire that up on your bench and you plug in your strand of 100 pixels and only 50 light up. Or if you haven't thought ahead of that, you're sitting there going, great, so I've got dead pixels. And I've heard people have already cut pixels out before this. So this is where you've just got to, once again, it's stop. Just log on to it. Update to 100 pixels. Most, you don't need, you can test 100 pixels without power injection, unless you follow the dark side. But also drop your brightness down to say 60%, because most people don't run their displays at 100%. So there's no point of testing at 100%, because 100% you might have power issues, but at 60%, those power issues could be gone. So once again, it's those little items that, will save a lot of stress and a lot of time and effort later on if we spend the time beforehand doing it. I'm a big believer in test. I set up my display, lights are on in 70 days, I think it is by memory. My display is almost 71 days until I put my display up, but I've already started the testing because that way I can test as I'm going. I'm testing as I'm doing new props. It's just things like, it's just those little information, little bits and pieces that we can stop the stress, because come October and November, people start in this hobby will start pulling their hair out. So I'm just trying to stop so much hair being lost and family fights as well with wives and spouses. Okay, I'm going to look at 3 most common problems most newbies. This is more aimed at newbies, not do you know the people who've been doing this for 6-7 years or who have a background in computer programming. These are the 3 most common problems. Now, once again, I'm no expert, and one of my problems might have been got changed a couple. There's things change all the time. So these are just some basic. Once again, it's just a step-by-step process to follow. To just take a breath and then begin. Situation 1. Prop doesn't light up at all. You've plugged it into test mode. Oh my God, it doesn't light up. What's going on? Oh my God, the world's ending. Stop. Take a breath. If you rush at your controller box and start pulling leads out left, right, and center, you go straight to this or straight to that, you'll skip things. You just need to stop and go, okay, I have a problem. It's time to look at this in a order that will make sense and an order that you can follow. And once again, this can be followed in your garage or outside in your thing. Okay, so grab your voltage tester, the one I've shown you how to build. Plug it into your prop. Does it have power? There's a simple, quick, easy test. Once again, you're not going to data. You're not looking at, is it thing? Just see if it's got power. Because if it ain't got power, you ain't going anywhere. Okay? So does it have power? If yes, you can move straight to the controller. So then, it's probably a data issue. But you've already, by literally grabbing that handy little tester, and you've literally gone and plugged it in, it lights up and it goes 5 volt because you're dark, or 12 volt because it's more volts, more better. You're good. Okay? But let's say for this one, you don't have power. Air gaps. Something as simple as pushing your plugs in. So start at your prop. So you're already there because you plugged your controller at the end. Just, double check your cable. Sometimes it can be a little loose and just tighten it up and you're done. Okay, so now see if it's the prop that's got the fault. So unplug your prop, plug your voltage tester to the incoming cable. Now, if you're coming straight from the controller, you're skipping that. You're going straight to your controller. But if you've got an extension or, which most of you do, plug it in and see if the voltage is coming through. So then voltage. Once again, it's very hard to test data at an end of a line unless you've got the right tools, which I can probably guess 99.999% of us do not have the testing equipment to test the data signal at the end of a line. So it's what every person can just grab and test with. It's not hard. It's safe. Simple as that. Still no power. Okay, so let's move to your controller now. We're moving down the line. If you're on a Falcon, they're lovely in green. It's really easy. I mean, Dave was really smart making the green lights. Green for good. Simple as that. Okay, so now all your fuses are good. You've looked at that. But I reckon, and in this case, what's left, it's the cable between your controller and your prop. So quickly pull that out, multimeter. Most of the time, there's your fault. Now, if you have other power issues, it could be literally your pigtail isn't screwed in correctly. But once again, as you're building and you're testing your devices, instead of plugging pixels in to test if your pigtails are correct, plug in your voltage tester, because that won't light up if you don't have the positive and negative correct. So you can test you've got power correct. Now, once again, can't test data until you plug pixels in. But if you plug pixels in the wrong way, negative to positive, vice versa, you'll probably damage your pixels while you damage the voltage. The voltmeter just doesn't light up. I've tried. I've done it on 24 volts. It doesn't light up. It doesn't hurt it. Well, it didn't seem to. Mine's still working. So once again, it's these little things that will save time further down the line. Okay, situation 2. The pixels towards on your proper flickering went on white. So what could cause this? Bad data or power drop. power loss, so voltage drop, which most of us know about. Okay, so now there's two ways to fix this. Grab your voltage test, plug it in. Anything under 10 volts if you're using 12 volt could cause problems. Once again, you've grabbed that device, you haven't had to sit there with the multimeter pins, you plugged it in, it's giving you an instant reading. Now that, those might be off by here and there, it might be 11.5 and the actual voltage is 11.6. In this hobby, that won't really affect anything too badly. So what can you do to fix this? Sometimes you can power inject, but sometimes go look at what your brightness is set on your display. I run most of my display at 40%, and even then, that's still very, very bright. I have two props, my singing faces on my roof here. I run them at 20% because of how dense they are, and they're fine. And the best thing is they're 170 pixels each. I only power inject at the end of the line. That's one power injection point. So they come in, through, and then I power inject there to put some power back through. That's it. And there's no flicker, no problems at full white, but I'm only running them at 25%. It's nothing. So just once again, it's little things like this. Power injection you can go and do it. It can be, and now there's lots of other ways to fix that. I know, you can fix it with grounding and all those sort of things as well sometimes, but just lower your brightness by 10%. Have a look, because the general public is not going to notice if your stars are 10% duller when everything's than the rest of your house. One of us might come and go, oh, that seems a bit darker, but the general public aren't going to notice it, not when everything's so bright in your face as it is. Okay, so power's fine. Let's check data. Now, there is no easy way to check data, like I said, but what you can do is grab your pixel buffer that you've got in your garage, plug it in between your prop and your output of your controller. Does that fix it? Most of the time that will probably help fix it. Or, so you just got to figure out whereabouts your data issues are. But that's a quick way to go, is it a data issue? Because you have that on hand, it's grab it, plug it in. Yep, no, yes, that's a data issue. Cool, leave it there. You could leave it there to fix, and then look at it later going, okay, maybe next time I need to shrink that lead in so I don't have such data drop, or, you have 2 foot of excess lead that you don't need. Well, okay, leave that for now. Your show's up and running. You can go back later and remember to cut the 2 foot lead you don't need. Or once again, you're up and going. Cool. General public, don't care. Your show's running. You can sit back and go, cool, that was done. You're not stressing about it. It's, oh, does this work? Yes. Done. In a lot of situations, yeah, that will fix the bad data. I mean, there are other ways. I understand, there's been some great videos, especially of late, of, wiring in your grounds, things like that. And that's great when you're doing the setting and the building up. But when you're in your display and you want a quick fix, having a couple of these lying around, the pixel buffers, is really something simple. Now, here's a little video I borrowed off a gentleman on Facebook just to show you what bad data can actually look like, because some people don't see it. So you'll see on green, you'll see that little flicker. It's just a single little flicker here and there. That ended up being bad data. So what did he do? He actually used a Null pixel. So he went into his controller and configured a Null pixel because he didn't have a pixel buffer in place. But that was what it was. As you can see, it's not a lot of pixels there. I think that's a 48 by memory. But that gives you an idea, because a lot of people don't know what bad data looks like. So even on all green, you see it's just that occasional flicker. You barely see it, but that was bad data. And this gentleman fixed it by putting a Null pixel in. Once again, with the pixel buffers, there's no configuration required. They're plug and go. So that's why I recommend them. Let's move on to situation 3. The wrong prop is turning on. That's always annoying one. Well, from a hardware point of view, you've labeled all your cables before you've set up. They're all plugged into the correct ports because you followed the xLight visualizer. So then it must be a software issue, right? Sorry, wrong way. So last year there was one incident I remember where it came down to, and this is where, once again, it's setting everything before you set it up. It's spending that bit of time. I know it sounds tedious and boring, and you just want your show up and going, but spending the time beforehand that could save you hours later. There was a gentleman last year in Zoom, and I think we probably spent an hour with him, and he was saying that one set of his props weren't lighting up, and he was telling us he was running out to his yard because everything was set up, and he's going, "Oh no, this is right. We're looking at all his configuration, but we couldn't see his yard." And I kept telling him, going, "Cool, can you just double check all your Cat 5 from your differential expansion boards going to your right receivers?" "Oh yeah, that's fine. I made sure that's what I said to that label." He goes, no, it's absolutely fine. Okay, cool. So he went backwards and forwards, and blah, blah. It's got to be xLights. We're pushing uploads. And, there was a few of us in the room, and we're trying to figure it out, but, we can't see him out in the yard. So I said, look, just do me a favor. Go follow that Cat 5 from the differential receiver all the way back to your board. Just follow it, just to make sure. Okay, off he went. He goes, "Oh, that won't be it," bit of a huff. Comes back in. He's sitting in the room. He's unmuted himself, and he's sitting there very quiet. And I was just going, "Oh, how was that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I plugged it into the wrong port." So it was something as simple as that, as labeling, that, that would have solved that. It's because, once again, it was the rush setup, all the cables all over the yard. He didn't take the time to label it. And that's where it came down to. Now, there are going to be a lot of things I haven't covered today, and I understand that. But as everyone knows, this hobby's growing and growing and growing. So trying to come up with a presentation that can cover all issues, no, it's not going to happen right now. I mean, with everything that's changing, new controllers, there'll be new issues, new props, new things like that. So that's basically about it. Hopefully my Aussie accent hasn't upset anyone today.
Thank you very much. My only comment is we didn't hear any Zeds. That was for sure.
The xLights project exists because of people like you. Help continue the project by making a donation today at xlights.org/donate.